Okay, so with the release of Across the Spider-Verse a few weeks ago, which me and Ginty have not seen yet because we're bad boys. Um,
But
we
also the fact that it's very new, and we don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it.
Sure, we'll use that excuse. We decided we liked ranking movies a lot. That's a big part of the show. I think going forward, just throwing our personal ranks, and then we come up with like a personified fandoms ranking of these movies. We figured what better than what better timely movie series to go off of than the Spider-Man movies. There's been 10 of them. We're doing 9 of them today because again, not all of us have seen the movies to adequately place correctly in a link in a list here.
Correct.
Luckily for Ginty, he did not have to write down 75 movies and pick from a short list as the last video, but only 9. So I will jump to you to start this off, Eric Tokenel. Which is your least favorite of? Can we just also throw out a thing aside here because we're gonna say it at some point? I'm pretty sure we like all these movies, right? Like we all like Spider-Man.
Yes.
I like all of these movies. They're all decent movies. Some way better than others, but
I've seen
none
all
of these
of
are
them
absolutely
multiple times. So
just to caveat that.
yeah.
Actually, you know what? I will caveat and say that there are a couple that I probably actually don't really like. Starting with my first, but I will jump to you first. Which is your least favorite Spider-Man movie of all time?
So, like you said, yes, this one was an easy call for me because out of all the movies, I think this was my opinion, the worst out of every Spider-Man movie, and it is Spider-Man 3 from 2007.
You're on your own there, bucko. But okay, I get it. I do get it.
No, I get it too.
So
this I can't argue it.
This one, yeah. But my reasoning for it, I mean, this one goes along with even Sam Raimi, who was very upset with how this movie was put together because the production company the studio was pushing to put Venom into this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a big fan of Venom and did not want Venom to be the villain of the movie. And it was there's a lot going on with multiple villains, multiple plots going on at the same time. And out of all the movies, I think the acting in this movie was pretty bad.
I will jump in.
I mean,
this is my number. This is my number
emo street
8.
Dancing.
Yeah, this is my number 8. It's right there. This is my next worst. There's one I don't like worse than it, but I'll just to piggyback because it's close enough to talk about it. There's some irredeemable stuff in this movie. The Eddie Brock thing coming across, Venom just coming across. It wasn't. The Eddie Brock was bad. Topher Grace as him was bad. The Venom character wasn't too bad. The getting on Spider-Man and making him like not even evil, but just like a dweeb, an absolute dweeb.
Emo.
I will say the only reason why it's not my last place movie is because it's so corny, it's funny. And the memes that come from it are so good. Like, you gonna cry. That's one of my favorite. I was just saying that earlier today. Like, it's one of my favorite things ever. And I liked Sandman. His character was good. I like that overarching story. If they had just had him.
Thomas Hayden Church was awesome. I thought he was great in that movie.
I think this one suffers a lot from kind of the X-Men 3 thing, where they just try to cram in too many characters and too many subtle plot points, and it's messy. It's just a messy, gross movie.
I do want to say about I know a lot of people like to jump and blame Sony for Sony did push Sam Raimi to have Venom in this movie, but I don't blame Sony completely for the movie turning out the way it did. It's like, if you have a studio that is paying you, that is forcing you to add this character you're not ready for, Sam Raimi is perfectly capable of still pulling off a good movie with that character. And so I still do put a lot of blame on the director. It's like, yes, it's a shitty situation, but look, sir, you're in this situation, so make the best of it. Give us a dope Venom. You could have done it. Sam Raimi, with his horror background, you're telling me he couldn't give us a better Venom? So I do put a lot more blame on him than I think a lot of people do. A lot of people like to jump, oh, Sony made him do it. It's like, dude, just make a good movie. You did it twice. You know, I know you can do it. And it just, you know.
Yeah, we have seen it time and time again with Sony and these movies. They have, they've taken total control and ruined the movie that should have come out.
That's why I was very scared about Spider-Man Homecoming. I thought I watched the whole movie in the first, like in the trailer. The trailer that they showed, I was like, did I just watch the whole fucking movie? I'm like, God damn it, Sony, stop doing this. And then luckily they were smart and actually like learned something from the way that Marvel does their trailers, and they broke things up and changed and shot different things specifically for the trailer. Because now we know Marvel does that. Marvel will shoot things or like alter things that aren't even part of it.
Yeah.
Like
the biggest one was
famously,
Infinity War.
Infinity War, when he's choking Chris Evans, he's choking Captain America, and you see the two stones, and you're like, oh shit, so he's got two stones at that point.
Well, the scene
and then
with
flash
them
forward to
running,
the actual movie.
They're running in Wakanda, and you got Cap, and
no
you got
one's
Hulk,
in it,
and like that never happens. Hulk's not even there.
So yeah,
Bruce is.
exactly. And you would spoil it if you had it shown the way it was. And like I was saying, when he's choking him, he's got all the he's got all the stones, and you're like, oh, so it was different from the trailer.
Yeah.
So, pretty cool. But yeah, so we'll jump to you then, Josh. What's the worst Spider-Man movie to come out in your opinion?
My least favorite Spider-Man movie of all time, and I know it'll be controversial, but let me explain. I think it's Spider-Man Homecoming. I don't like Spider-Man Homecoming as many times as I've seen it. I don't get down with this Spider-Boy fucking around. I always replay the scene in my head where he's getting dragged through the neighborhood on a fucking van, and he's just, and it so much relies on the Stark suit, and it's so polluted, and it's not my Spider-Man. Now, I will go out and say that when he was introduced in Civil War, I'm like, this is it. You guys did it. He's finally a kid. This is what I want to see. He's bawling out. Now, that doesn't even add up. The way he's bawling out in Civil War, he gets his ass handed to him the entire movie of Homecoming. The entire fucking movie, to the point where even at the end, the only reason he beats Vulture is because Vulture's suit was overpowering and like kind of blows up. He didn't defeat Vulture. It was on a technicality. Like, I don't like Homecoming for that reason. That's not the Spider-Man that I want to see. And I do think Tom Holland finally does get there. We'll talk about as we progress through these movies. I do think he gets to that Spider-Man that I'm like, yeah, because I do think it's kind of weird how he's in a solo movie, but then once you throw him in, just like you have him in Civil War, he's fire. Then you have him in Homecoming, it's like, ah. Then you have him in Infinity War, he's fucking fire. Then you have him in Far From Home, he's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's weird how when you throw him in these team movies, he's suddenly the Spider-Man that I want to see. So
that's because they have to prop him up against other superheroes, and he can't look super weak,
and it makes sense
like he doesn't.
It makes sense, but it's simply not the Spider-Man I'm interested in. I don't want to see you relying so heavily on this suit. And I know that is a big part of that movie where it's like, if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it. It's almost like with great power comes great responsibility line kind of took place of that. Like, there's elements of that movie I like. I do like Tony Stark's role in that movie. I don't think he overshadowed.
Hey, save some for the rest of us.
But
we also have this movie on our list, Josh. Save some for us.
That's right. But,
and we like it a little bit more than you, Josh. So save some.
There's things about this movie that I do like, but overall, I don't go back to this movie very often. I go back to all these other movies way more than I go back to Homecoming. So yeah, that's my least favorite.
All right.
And Mike,
I'm blocking you.
Mike, what is your least favorite Spider-Man movie?
That's right. We didn't go over that. My least favorite. I'm surprised of you guys having the worst ones, because I would have thought of all of these, this would have been the one where we all unanimously decided it was
I
worst.
think I know what it is.
And I'm gonna say The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think that it was a very weak follow-up to the first one. Jamie Foxx's character, the main villain of this, or like the secondary villain. I don't know. Again, this one suffers. Yeah, it just weird. It suffers from bloat. Too many villains in this one too. I do like, again, I like what some of this one did. I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint it exactly what I didn't like. I feel like this one, I remember watching it and thinking it was very rushed. It was very like shoehorning in his whole, this is the one with his parents, right? Where they try to describe what happened to his parents. See, it blurs kind of with the first one, but I remember.
Oh my God. No, that was the first one.
Was that the first one?
The second one, no, because the beginning of the second one has that whole opening scene. They try to dive into it more. They have that deleted scene of Amazing Spider-Man 2 that I think they should be prosecuted for taking out of the film, where his dad returns to him while he's at Gwen Stacy's grave. I think it just goes to show that you had a good film in there, but you guys tried to do too much. That's my opinion on that. But I have Amazing Spider-Man 2 a little bit higher.
This is my number 8.
Okay.
And to go back to my point from my number 9, Sony overtook a lot. I mean, we already know. I mean, this movie was edited in such a fucking manner that you could see that there was shit that should have been there that wasn't there. I mean, this it's so very choppy. It's jarring when it goes from once. It's just insane. And the suck part is I really liked Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I thought he did a great job. This was another take on Spider-Man with him and Gwen Stacy. And there's no MJ, it's him and Gwen.
Well, there's like the end, right? She's at the end of this one.
Who, MJ?
Mary Jane, yeah.
No, she's not in that. She's not in the theatrical version at all. She's in deleted scene.
No.
Again, Sony,
I was going to say, because Shailene Woodley is in it.
Again,
it's weird.
It was completely cut out of the movie.
I bet you she filmed a lot. And then,
Yeah, there was a decent amount filmed.
And the sad part was for what the movie was there, I actually enjoyed it. But I knew it was missing so much. This I hate this list. I really hate making this list. I really do.
Isn't it? Yes.
I'm even looking at my next one and I'm like, it doesn't belong here. It doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it again. I mean, they have to be somewhere, though. That's the whole problem with it. Yeah. And I think we're on the same page back to back here with the same type of over bloated, choppy, leaving too much, too big for its own britches type of thing that they started to do with these movies. Where it just wasn't clean. Like they had to make it a trilogy, but it didn't feel like it was a trilogy. It felt like more episodic, but just weird. And this is the one where he squares. Is this the one where he squares off with Rhino at the end, or is that?
Yep.
Okay.
That fucking scene from the trailer that you're like, I can't wait to see how that plays out. Well, guess what? You don't.
You don't.
The way it ends in the trailer is the way it ended in the. I'll never forget being in the movie theater and seeing that. I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah. Just a weird choices. So
it suffers from a lot of what Iron Man 2 suffered from. I think a lot of the same things.
Yeah.
The first one was good, and then you tried to build too much in the second one, and
anytime you try to add too many like villains, it feels like anytime there's like a crossover of like, oh, he's the bad guy, but wait, there's another one.
There's more.
There's a way to do it, and there's a way not to do it.
And
you can pull
definitely
it off.
Suffers from that,
which we'll get to, I guess, later.
All right, so Josh, what's your number 8?
My number 8 again. I feel like you and Ginty are on the same kind of page. You guys are pretty close, and I'm the controversial one. My number 8 is Spider-Man: Far From Home. I think we're suffering from a lot of things that I think we're suffering from in Spider-Man: Homecoming. But I will say, one of the things I love about Spider-Man: Far From Home is by the end of that movie, when his spider tingle, he takes that deep breath, he in that moment becomes the Spider-Man that I want to see Tom Holland being. Not solely depending on the suit He finally is in his bag, but he's still a kid, And I will say I loved everything they did with Mysterio, but there was just so much going on in that movie that I didn't give a fuck about. Didn't give a fuck. I mean, when he's the night monkey and, Nick Fury is hijacking his, school vacation, and I don't care. I know they went for this John Hughes feel, and when they announced that they were going to do that, I'm like, that's a very good idea. But then when I saw the execution of it, I said, oh no, you're diving too much into the John Hughes, too much into the Ferris Bueller and the Breakfast Club, and I think you need to evenly mash that out. So again, I love Mysterio. I love the end of that movie.
I'll say this is my next
number
one.
8.
This is next on the list for me. It's my number 7. I think it's the weakest of the Tom Holland ones. I'm surprised actually that you don't have the Tom Holland ones higher. I figured you would have appreciated them because you seem to be more connected with the MCU. So I figured you would have been a lot higher on these than you are.
I wanted to be.
Yeah.
There was
promise. It's a weird. I do like this one. I think it's personally the worst of the. I liked Homecoming a little bit better. Obviously, it's on higher up on my list, and I liked obviously No Way Home better. But this one did feel weird. Like it felt like a one-off. Like if it drags. Like over halfway through the movie, you're like, where are we going? Like, this isn't going to all be Mysterio's big plot, right? Like, he's going to do something else with this, and he never does, because you find out, when do you actually there's a point in the movie where you find out that Mysterio's using the drones to,
well, it's pretty much right after he gives the glasses to Mysterio.
Yeah.
Right when he gives him the glasses.
The movie is trying to act like we don't know. The movie is trying to act like we don't know Mysterio is a villain. Like, ooh, plot twist. It's like, no, damn well we know what the fuck is going on here.
I don't. I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
You didn't know Mysterio was a villain?
Dude, I don't follow
But even if you didn't know,
I'm not a comic guy.
Into the movie. Like, a long time before Spider-Man does. And it's not like a...
Yes.
It's not like it's in movies. They do that thing where they tell the audience, they let the audience in on the secret, and that can work for you if it's blatantly obvious, and it opens up another way of storytelling where you can be like, shouting at the screen like, oh, why doesn't he get it? Like, be more clever about it and unwind it. Like, you have to kind of unpack why he's doing it, and it gives you a time to give the villain a justification as to why he's doing it, and you get to almost see into why they're doing it. And then so you have the turn later on at the end of the movie. It's like, oh, okay, or he gets Spider-Man to force his hand into finally doing it. Like, you're thinking, I know I'm kind of rambling here, but I'm saying, like, if you had it so Mysterio was, toying with the idea of doing this and kind of felt bad that he was using Peter Parker for that. And then at the end, he does something and then he turns and you're like, okay, I see why that happened. But you didn't. You knew the whole time he was just a piece of shit. And so it's not a mystery. And it's just like, okay, how is this going to be exciting when Spider-Man finally finds out that he's an asshole? And it doesn't really pay off. It's just like, oh, hey, by the way, kid, I was an asshole. And you're like, oh, well, that didn't go anywhere with that. It was just kind of you blew the spoiler in the beginning and then you didn't really go anywhere with it. So that's what's frustrating about this one. For me, anyway.
It just goes dead silent.
Long silence.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, again, I really liked Mysterio. Like when he goes into the whole trippy illusion and he's going through it. It reminded me. I don't know if you guys, well, probably not Ginty, but Mike, did you ever play like the Spider-Man games that were based off the movies? For the Tobey Maguire ones. So remember Spider-Man 2, when you're finally able to like web sling on the buildings and everything? They introduced Mysterio in that. And that was my introduction to Mysterio. And it's very reminiscent, some of the stuff they do with Mysterio when he's fucking with Peter and they're in like the weird like trippy clown house and all that. I think that was brilliant and perfect and everything I wanted to see from Mysterio. So there are highlights in the movie that I think is the reason I had to put it above Homecoming. But yeah, again, it suffers from a lot of things that I think Homecoming did.
Yep.
So we all did our number 8, right?
Yep, and that was my number 7. So we will kick it to you, Eric. What is your number 7?
Okay, and this was a flip flop because I'm very close with Josh. I'm actually, you know what? I'm actually gonna flip. I'm gonna change my number 7 and 6.
Live on Personified Fandom, he is ending his list.
So my number 7 is actually gonna be. I even have arrows. I actually have arrows and question marks.
You didn't have to tell any of us. You could just say that.
I'm telling you. But so my number 7, I'm actually gonna say it's Far From Home.
Okay. All right. So just piggyback on some of that.
Yeah, that's basically what it was, and because I have to put these somewhere on this list, and it's not the fact that I dislike them. We're making a list.
We said that caveat. We said the caveat. You don't got to say it. You don't got to say it. We started off this list by saying we like all these movies. They just got to go somewhere. One's got to be better. They can't all be tied for 4, 3, and 5. Yeah. I really like the ending of this movie because if anybody was able to follow the style of movies that I like when things end on a bleak question marking note. And it ends, I will say they end this movie and begin No Way Home on a different, like almost like a different vibe. Like at the end of this movie, you think everyone's going to be pissed off at Spider-Man and like hunting him almost like The Dark Knight. And then you pick it up in No Way Home, and it's just like, oh no, people just want to see who Spider-Man is, and you're like, what? I thought everyone was pissed because he killed Mysterio.
Well, there were a lot of lot of people in No Way Home that actually were.
I guess
pissed. The cliffhanger of Far From Home, I forgot. I don't even know why I wiped that from my mind when I'm talking about Far From Home. That cliffhanger was fucking insane. When they bring back J.K. Simmons first of all as J. Jonah Jameson, and it's like, because who else could play that man? Honestly, and you bring him back and he's bald. He's like a different version, and it's like, oh my god! And then they say that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and he goes, "What the?" And it ends. I was like, oh my god.
That was great.
That was a great ending. Awesome ending.
Yeah. It's funny how Homecoming also ended with a what the fuck, when Aunt May sees that he's Spider-Man. What the? Yeah. And it cuts. So it was kind of following in that. But yeah, that was cool.
No, they didn't do that in No Way Home, did they?
No, they didn't.
Like the very ending.
No.
But
I gotta
that would have
say,
been a weird vibe thing for that too.
To keep doing it, it would have been like, all right, guys.
What are you say?
But one of the best scenes in this movie is when Peter meets up with Happy and he's just been beat to hell on the train. I mean, he's just a ragamuffin at this point. He gets in, he needs to make a suit, and boom, I got you. And it's like looking at Tony Stark doing something again.
Yeah,
that's my problem though. That
it was just like.
They played that song, and I wanted to get up and fucking walk out when it went burn, burner, burner, dunna, dunna. Yeah. I was like, fuck you. It's almost like it pisses me off, and you're doing it on purpose. But that's awesome, though. That's awesome that and I'm sure it hit a lot of people like that. Like, it's reminiscent of Iron Man. But me, I was in theater like, I was so mad. I was so mad they did that.
Just tugging on the heartstrings, man. I thought it was great that they added that into that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I like that we can be in completely disagreements of how that was executed. It's great. All right. So we'll kick it to you, Josh. What's your number 7? Because we are caught up now.
All right. So my number 7 is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I this is one of those guilty pleasure movies for me, which another movie on here, obviously that I haven't mentioned yet, that other people have further down on their list, is also a guilty pleasure movie for me. But Amazing Spider-Man 2, there's so much about this movie that I liked that I can't help but enjoy it. I mean, I watched this movie about less than a month ago. I sat down and watched it with my daughter, and I watch it, and I'm like, going into it knowing how shitty it does get at parts, it's a better watch, than when I first saw it in the movie theater, and I'm like thrown off, like, oh my god, this is fucking
it's not going so well right
yeah,
now.
This is terrible. Like, what is happening? What are you doing to me?
It is a cathartic thing when you can watch a movie that you think is trash and then it turns out not that bad and you're like, oh yeah, that's actually not bad. Like for me, when we went and watched Daredevil, when we were doing Daredevil for movie of the week, I remembered that movie being bad. Mm-hmm. Like in my brain, I was like, no, Daredevil's trash. And I was like, oh, you know what? I was actually pleasantly surprised. It's the same thing with Jumper. I was like, I thought Jumper was bad. And then I started remembering, I'm like, oh no, I actually kind of liked it. And then I watched it and I was like, I didn't hate it as much as I used to think that I hated it, or like didn't care about it or didn't like it. But
yeah. Some of the highlights. I mean, Andrew Garfield is my favorite Spider-Man, hands down, as Spider-Man. I think there's a different conversation when who's your favorite Peter Parker, who's your favorite Spider-Man, who's your favorite both. When it comes to Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield was my favorite, and his iteration of Spider-Man in Amazing Spider-Man 2, it was that euphoria feeling when I was sitting in the theater watching him. I'm like, I've never seen a more perfect Spider-Man. This is incredible. Even the suit, I was like, this is... This is amazing.
I completely agree.
No pun intended.
I completely agree. I completely agree with the Spider-Man versus Peter Parker thing because I think he's not a good Peter Parker.
No,
I think he's
Peter
way
Parker
too
throws
cool.
Me off. Yeah,
he's way too cool to be Peter Parker.
Cool.
Yeah, he's like skateboards and shit, and you're like,
yeah, he's dope.
Like you have a bunch of friends in high school, and I feel like Peter Parker was more of a nerd. Like I think Tobey Maguire makes a better. I think for how early that was and how nerdy and kind of like socially awkward he is. Plays a little bit better with like an older Peter Parker than I think Tom Holland makes probably overall the mashup the best of it. But that's because they've had 3 chances to do it now, so it's kind of a cheat. But
another highlight that I feel like a lot of people poo-poo on, and I'm also in the minority for, is I like Electro. I think that scene when he's in Times Square and he's leveling up. I was in the theater like, this is crazy. Like, this is insane. This is so fun. I was having such a good time. I like Electro in that movie. So when they said he was coming back for No Way Home, I was like, let's fucking go. I'm in the minority of people who liked him. I also really dig their Green Goblin. Now the problem is he was so underutilized, thrown at the end, and so rushed. I want to see more of that Green Goblin where he's actually mutating. His ears are changing, his skin, the way it goes down. That was intriguing. And then also, I like the Rhino, but we only saw him for 10 fucking seconds. Like, so many missed opportunities. I love the death of, it's weird to say, but the death of Gwen Stacy. Love how that plays out and how much that fucks with Peter because he failed. Like, this movie has so much greatness in it. And even in the trailers, I knew Gwen Stacy was going to die just by her outfit. Like, I've read that comic, The Death of Gwen Stacy. And as soon as they end up at that clock tower and the Green Goblin's there, I'm like, this is it. She's going to die right here. Like, there's so much greatness in that movie. It was just, the recipe was perfect, but they didn't cook it right. That's my opinion on Amazing Spider-Man 2. And I'll go back, I'll watch the movie tomorrow, and I'll enjoy it. I know it's a shit movie, but guilty pleasure, man. I love that fucking movie.
I am with you 100%.
All right. So I will start off this next round for number 6. Here, look at my list real quick. My number 6... my number 6 actually is, to keep kind of on brand, is the first Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Nice.
Same too. Look at that. Yeah, I think I liked this one a lot because I really liked how, like, when this was the first time that we saw Spider-Man not be Tobey Maguire. And
Yep.
he was, you know, the graphics were better. The
Yeah.
story was tighter. Garfield quips the entire time. You know, he's constantly talking shit. And that reminded me of like the video games where constantly you're kicking everyone's ass and you're like, oh, is that all you got? And like beating everybody up. And
Yeah.
I really liked this one. I liked how he was more techy and it felt like a newer vibe to it. Yeah, Toke, what were some of your thoughts on it?
No, I'm right on par with you on that. I was very going into it very apprehensive because again, I was
Everyone
that
was.
generation where it was looking Tobey Maguire. It's like
Mhm.
I want more Spider-Man, but it's a new person. I don't know if I'm gonna like this. I don't know if I can get behind it. But man, I thought as again, like you were saying before, as Peter Parker, he's not so much as Peter Parker. He doesn't pull off that quirky, awkward, nerdy kid. Yes, he's techie, he's very smart, and we know this, but it's the persona doesn't pull it off as much. But man, his fucking Spider-Man is fucking spot on. I love it. And the way and yeah, his whole quippy and shit with the way he is with people. Like when he's trying to run around and he's trying to find the person who killed Ben.
Mhm.
And he's out there, he's like, I'm sorry. There you
That
go.
first introduction of him, like in the
Yes.
suit, yeah. If you're gonna be a car
It,
thief, don't dress as a
oh
car
my
thief. Like he
yeah.
webs him in the balls.
Yeah. I mean, it was fucking great. I mean,
Yeah.
I've gone on before. I've said, like I said, I loved Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I thought it was fantastic. This movie was great. Again, it has to be somewhere on here, but it's going to be higher up only because of other reasonings for other movies. But I fucking love this movie. I really do. And I think I've seen it 3 times in the past 2 weeks.
Oh wow, so
It,
like
it's
real
been
recently.
it's been on TV. So I'm like, I'll watch it again.
So since
And
this
but
one's so like close for me, I will say that this is my next one. This is number 5. For me, I like the Amazing Spider-Man a lot, and I know a lot of people don't like his Peter Parker, but he is the ultimate Spider-Man Peter Parker. Now, there's different iterations of that character in the comics and
yes.
in video games, and he perfectly portrayed ultimate Spider-Man Peter Parker from the video game that I played. And I thought that was interesting, and I think that when you go to reboot Spider-Man after being so beloved, and so many people wanted that Spider-Man forward, Tobey Maguire, even to this day, if you're gonna reboot it, you can't try to do what Tobey Maguire was doing or Sam Raimi was doing with those films. And I think that it was the right choice to go for this darker tone, completely different Tobey Maguire, completely different Peter Parker, and completely different Spider-Man. I think they made all the right moves in this movie. I really do.
Yeah.
And I even think Lizard was great. I think the only thing, my only nitpick, no, 2 nitpicks of that movie is one, how you were just saying how he's going through trying to find Uncle Ben's killer. What happened to that? They just dropped that storyline. Like, that's the last time you see him try to find Uncle Ben's killer. He never does it again, ever.
Yeah, that's
and they
right.
kind
They
of
also
just threw it away.
I think it has a lot of. I think that's a lot of the studio as well. I think there's a lot of cutting.
It might have been. It might have been a lot of cutting.
The second one was completely chopped up. This one, I mean, up until that point, I mean, other than that, yes, I agree. I mean, that there should have been more with that.
Yeah, and my only other nitpick, small nitpick, it's kind of stupid. I like everything about the suit except his eyes. His eyes bothered the shit out of me, and I think it's funny that Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out and he had the big white eyes. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. That is perfect. I love the suit, but his eyes, where he took just like sunglasses and like put them in, I'm like, you look silly. But like, other than that, I loved it. I even like how they did the first person shots in that movie. I thought that was really unique and really fun. But yeah, I really enjoy Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I remember being weirded out because he made his own web, because I had never really thought how did he make his web? And then when the Tobey Maguire one came out with like the weird thing out of his wrist, I was like, oh, okay. And I just accepted that as being like canon and lore. And then like going back and looking like, no, he used to make his own web. Like he made it.
And everything.
And everything, and then the movie he used to shoot it out of his.
That came from
like
James Cameron. Fun fact, because I don't know if you guys noticed, but James Cameron was supposed to do Spider-Man. He was signed on. He was ready to do that live-action Spider-Man. He was eyeing Leonardo DiCaprio to play Peter Parker, which I wish we would have saw that movie, but it was James Cameron's idea to have the webs actually come out of him, and I think that makes sense, and I like that more. Because it's like, why would he get all these spider powers besides getting the web out? But yeah. Fun fact: the Spider-Man movie we never got to see, the James Cameron version.
It does make sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So since we were all in agreement with that, you can finish out our number 6. Josh, what is your number 6?
And my number Spider-Man 6 is Spider-Man 3. That's my other guilty pleasure movie. I know it's trash, but I adore this movie. I adore it. I love
What do you
love
love? What do you like about it?
You would.
Fucking everything. Mike, look me in the eyes. I love everything about this movie. I love how shitty it gets because it's so fun. You know, you got Peter fucking dancing. It's so bad, but it's so good. It's so good.
Bad.
You're talking about some of the most memorable scenes in any Spider-Man movie, period, come from this film. Whether it's good or bad. Dig it in your memory. Now dig on this. And he starts moving his hips, and I'm like, you are the corniest, most interesting man I've ever seen in my goddamn life. It was just, God. I love everything about this movie. And there are good parts. Like when he gets the black Spider-Man suit, I fucking love it. I think the suit looks fire. You know, I even like how he's acting. He's angry, and like when he fights Sandman, I think all that's great. I like emo Peter. You know, it's corny, but it's so interesting to watch. And then, of course, the main highlight that everyone I think can agree on is Sandman. You know, I think Sandman is the best part of that story, except for the fact that they try to shoehorn in that he's the one who killed Uncle Ben. And it's like, why?
That was weird.
Because you need a personal relation to the villain. You know, it was very shoehorned in. Didn't make any sense, and we didn't
Now,
need
why did he... I forget why he was the killer. Because it was that other spiky-haired dude.
So he was the driver. They were robbing a place. He was the driver. And he was trying to steal the car, and he had him out there, and he wasn't trying to kill. He didn't try to kill him.
No,
it was
he
just
didn't.
One of those.
No.
It was like he had the gun in his hand, and it was like, oh, he got bumped. It's like,
and he accidentally shot him.
Yeah, and it was it was just utter devastation for him.
But it's they bring him to they bring him to the police station, and they're like, yeah, so we actually know that this man killed your uncle, and it's like, why are you telling him this?
Yeah, right
now. You know, it throws you for a loop. It's like, why did you bring this man and his poor elderly aunt here to tell him that this other guy killed your uncle? That doesn't help them in any way. It'd be better if you let them think that the person that killed Ben is dead. You're like, actually, no, come here. I gotta let you know that this superpowered being that's gonna be a bitch to take down is the one who killed your uncle. It's like, it's such a fucking mess. But you know what? There's great scenes in that movie, like when the crane takes out the building and he jumps to save Gwen Stacy. Completely memorable scene. I even like New Goblin. You know, I don't like how it was so rushed through everything with him and Harry. But you know, but then another stupid scene when his butler's like, his butler comes out on fucking his deathbed. This guy looks old as shit.
He tried to save him.
It's like, motherfucker, we've been living in the same house my entire life.
You couldn't have told me this the night that I found out it was Peter. Like, what the
fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, that's a
guilty
really weird.
pleasure. I love
and
that
then
movie.
and then him getting
Yeah.
like weird amnesia and then slowly remembering. It's
Yeah.
such a wonky, like weird.
They're my
thing.
friends. They're my best friends.
Guys, like, oh yeah,
Guys,
it's such a.
they're making the omelet.
God.
Do the twist, and they're doing the omelet. I'm like, oh, this is so bad, but I love it.
It's bad. It's a good pain. All right, Toke. Start us off with your number 5 because that was
Yeah.
No, you started the 5, so Toke, you go with yours.
Yeah.
All right, so my number 5, I guarantee this is going to be higher up. I know it's higher up for Josh, but I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I'm going to keep it in the middle of the pack only because it's animated and it's Into the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
This movie is by all means fantastic. All right,
Yeah.
The storyline, the plot. I mean, the new character of Miles Morales becoming Spider-Man after Peter Parker is dead in his universe. It's a great story. I love everything going on between him. Finding out his uncle's actually bad, and it's a great fucking. It's just great. A kid coming into his own by the help of other Spider-Men from other universes.
Yeah, it's a little bit higher than I would say to bring up for me. It's a little bit, so I don't want to talk too much on it because I'll have to jump around. But yeah, no, that one it is a very good one. Changes it up. It's a complete departure. I almost missed this one. Like I was like, oh, it's animated. I don't really care. And then when I started hearing how good it was,
people felt that. Yeah.
that's when I jumped in on
Oh,
it.
yeah.
That's a little
I
bit
think it's
higher
actually
for me, but I
Post
totally
Malone.
get
I knew
putting
it would.
where you did.
The Post
It
Malone
was just-
Sunflower song is kind of what got me too, because I was like, I love
Yeah.
that song Sunflower. I'm gonna check it out.
It's just one of the things. Like I did not. I had
whole soundtrack,
zero
man.
intention. I had zero intention of ever watching it, and just happened. I'm sitting at home. I was like, "Fuck it! I'm gonna watch. Again, there's nothing else on. Let me go watch a Spider-Man movie. I know it's on Netflix. I'm gonna go watch it." And I did, and I was like, "This movie is fucking fantastic. I loved every fucking aspect of it."
I mean, I think
And
a lot of people had that same
Yeah.
experience. I mean, when this
Yeah.
movie was announced, I trashed on it. The first trailer came out, and I'm like, the animation looks fucking janky. It looks stupid. Why the fuck are we doing this? What are you thinking? You know what I mean? I poo-pooed all over this movie before it
I
came
did
out,
too.
and I'm such a bitch. I'm like, but it's Spider-Man, so I'm gonna go to the movies and see it. As much as I poo-pooed on it,
Yeah.
But it
All right,
was
so-
it was very comic-y. But I will say the Peter Parker that helps him become who he becomes.
Peter B. Parker.
Did anybody else look at him and not see Adam Sandler from 8 Crazy Nights?
Kind of, yeah.
What have you done? What have you done? Damn it, Kinsey, what have you done?
You're welcome.
It's funny, yeah. Jake Johnson, yeah. I'll talk a little bit more
All right.
about that movie when we move on.
Yeah. So my number 5 is Spider-Man: Homecoming. We touched on this with you, Josh, earlier, who clearly hate this movie. I love this movie and I might have like a tinted goggles when I watch it because I love where it came out. I love that it came out right at he gets introduced in Civil War, and then this movie just like catches you up on how that came to be, and the part with when he's saving the ferry and the Tony Stark, the Iron Man suit shows up and starts berating him, and he's like, "Well, how do you know? You're not even here right now. I'm just talking to a recording." And then he pops out of the
powerful.
suit, and you're
That
like,
was
"Oh
powerful.
shit!"
Yep.
Yeah, it's like that's like such a good moment.
But you know where they fucked up? That's in the fucking trailer, Mike. That's in the trailer. What were they thinking? Like, that's such a powerful
it's
moment.
so weird
I don't even remember the trailer.
I don't remember that being in the trailer.
Yeah, they
so
showed
it
that in
could
the
totally
trailer.
be.
He comes
I don't-
walking out
I
of the
don't
suit,
remember.
and it's like when I watched it during the movie, I was like, it was still powerful. Like it still hit different.
I might have missed
Yeah.
that
everything
trailer.
building up to it. Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
in like the third trailer. That was back when I
Yeah.
watched too many. Now I usually watch the teaser, the first trailer, and then I fucking cut out.
Yeah, get out because I do that game too, where it's like I pick up on something in the trailer and then I watch for it in the movie, and then like some movies are good about not doing it, but even if it's something small, so like in my head I'm like, nope, I know this part that's in the trailer that's going to be coming up, so this person isn't dead or whatever,
Exactly,
So I
yeah,
do that in my own brain, so I've stopped watching trailers, and I'll
Yeah.
even do that with like I'm watching a movie with my fiance, and I'm like, doesn't die here yet because she's in the part of the trailer. It's like you see it. Like,
Yeah, happens a
but
lot.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, and this was a weird one too because I no, I don't have much else to say about it. I liked Homecoming.
What do you think of
And
it's
Michael
close enough.
Keaton as Vulture? I feel like we
I
didn't dig much into that.
No,
I feel
I
like we
know.
all talked about it, but we're not really talking about him as Vulture. And I do
I
think that
kind
was a
of liked-
highlight. I liked it, and I liked the twist that he was
Yeah.
what's their face's father. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
cool. I like when they world build, and I like them showing like people stealing the technology from the big giant alien that crashed
Yeah, that
in New
was
York.
cool.
Like I like that it builds on the world. This was one of the first
Chitauri?
ones. Yeah, the Chitauri. Yeah, this was one of the first movies that it's made by, like, I know Disney and Sony came together to make this movie, but it doesn't feel like it's in the MCU, but it does because there's things from the MCU in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not a straight child of the MCU, more of like a stepchild that has parts in it where you're like, oh yeah, this is like, doesn't quite feel like an MCU movie because it's a little bit darker themed, I think, like tonally. It's not as like upbeat and happy, and like it's kind of like I don't know. I digress, but I liked it and I respect it, and I liked Keaton. I think that they didn't do enough because, like you said, he gets beat by basically his own technology getting fucked
Yeah,
up.
that was a little disappointing. Yeah.
And it was a little just weird, like
And then they have a post-credit
we're-
scene that we never like
one's
follow
that one
up
again?
on. That so he meets I think his name's Gargan, the Scorpion, in jail, and he's like, oh, we got the same spider problem or whatever.
Yeah,
and we
that's right, I remember
never
that now.
follow up on that at any point. It's kind of like
I also
it was
didn't
such
like
a
the whole
throwaway
like
post-credit.
the whole crux of the movie felt kind of forced because it was like, oh, they're stealing the stuff because we're moving it to a different location, and you're like,
Yeah,
But-
we're getting a new Avengers campus, and
yeah,
Tony Stark, and don't forget Tony Stark, and
Yeah.
fucking shit.
Well,
he-
well, this is actually my number 4, so I'm right there with it. So
Okay.
I mean, I know they started stealing it because they were the contractors. You know, they were getting paid to salvage his stuff. They weren't taking it; they were literally
Yeah.
dismantling it, bringing it in, and then they were basically the government came in and said, "You're done. We're taking over. No outside involvement." It's like,
Yeah.
well, I had a long-term contract. Like, this is how I'm feeding my family.
Yeah, it's
And that's
I forgot the name
basically-
of the company, but it's ran by Tony Stark. It's actually a pretty popular company in the comic books.
Yeah.
But there was a really funny scene when they're like, "So the guys who are making this mess are getting paid to clean it up," and the guy's like, "Yeah, it's all rigged."
yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that was funny. It's
That was a
hilarious.
really
Yeah.
funny line.
But like you were saying before, it was like without the suit, like he does the whole end of that movie is him in his homemade suit. He didn't have the Tony Stark
Yeah.
suit anymore, so he's doing everything just wearing sweatpants and a hoodie.
and that's fine, but what did he do? What did he do?
I mean,
he held on to a plane while it fucking crashed, and Vulture's suit explodes on its own from being overpowered. Like, he didn't do that, you know?
Which,
No,
if
like,
you play
that's-
that, if
but
you play that up more,
but he saved them.
if you
but he
played
was-
that up
he
more,
saved
it would
him.
have been better.
Okay, and
Yeah.
I do like that scene where he's like under the rubble, and he's like, you know, he replays if you're not without the suit, you shouldn't have it, and he lifts it up, and I think that was a good scene. I was like, yeah, Spider-Man. He's like, come on, Spider-Man, and he does that. It's like, yeah, here we go. But then the way it
Yeah.
ended, it was like, but. You know what
and
I
that's
mean?
the thing.
Like,
People,
what the fuck?
but that I just think that's a foreshadowing. Like people don't like. He doesn't even realize how strong he really is.
Yeah,
Like
no, I agree.
he,
Yeah,
Spider-Man's one of the most powerful pound for pound
yes,
he is.
heroes in the whole MCU. And then
he
because
is.
he's so young and he's such a kid. Because there's also comics about when he's like an adult, he's fucking absolutely ape shit because he's like can't handle his own strength, almost like Hulk status. Because spiders are like 100 times stronger than their body weight or some crazy.
You ever
like
seen the versus videos that they have on YouTube? They like put certain characters against each other, and they use statistics on what they do. And I believe he fought. Who did he fight? I think
it's
it
the
was
death
Darth
battles, right?
The death battles. He fought Darth Maul, I think. I believe it was Darth Maul, and the way he beat him was he slungshot his body through Darth Maul. Like it used actual statistics of his strength from comic books and everything. It breaks it down, so it's like
if you ever get bored, look that up. Death battles on YouTube. It's pretty cool.
So good.
Except I'm still pissed that they had Superman beat Goku. Fuck that.
Yeah, it's a
Who's
little
Goku?
sus.
From Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z.
Moving on. Moving on. Josh, you want to take us with your number 4? We're almost on the top 3
okay,
here.
so my number 4 is the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. I can quote that movie. I feel like I remember when I was a kid, I always used to say, I can play the movie in my head if I shut my eyes. From beginning to end. I mean, who am I? You sure you want to know? Story.
Yeah.
My story is not for the faint of heart. Like, I can go through it. Like, I know that movie, and that was my introduction to Spider-Man. I mean, you guys, you got to remember I was 4 years old when this movie came out. And it completely... It took my... there's certain movies that just... It took my whole world and universe and just shook it up. And I think, Spider-Man, Matrix Reloaded, all these movies that came out around that time just fucked me all up. And Spider-Man's one of them. I remember watching that movie in the theater and I'm like, Spider-Man, And then here I am. I'm looking for the 90s Spider-Man cartoon on WB Kids every Saturday. They had that Spider-Man cartoon who Neil Patrick Harris did the voice on MTV.
Yep.
Fire, underrated Spider-Man cartoon show. Spider-Man became just part of me, He's my favorite superhero of all time. And this is the movie that sparked it. And I think Tobey Maguire did a phenomenal job as Peter Parker, did a great job as a live-action Spider-Man for the times. When you go back to these movies now, you look at his Spider-Man, and he's doing clips, but it's like, you're still a corny little fuck.
Yeah.
You're corny.
They pulled this one the most. I feel like this is the most feeling like comic book Spider-Man, with like Aunt May being actually old, Ben being old.
Yeah.
Like Peter Parker, a lot of those kids in high school looked a little old, especially
Flash.
Old.
I mean, God, they're in their 30s. Flash Thompson's older than me right now.
I don't want to fight you, Flash. Yeah, I wouldn't want to fight me neither. Like
no one wants to fight you, dude. You're 40.
You're 30. You're 32 in high school. What's happening here?
And then when he does like a triple backflip, and nobody's like, that's fucking peculiar.
Weird. Yeah, there's a lot of weirdness to it, but it's supposed to be. It came from an era where comic book movies weren't supposed to be super serious. They were supposed to be kind of wonky. I'll tell you, one of my favorite scenes from this movie is when he catches up with the guy who shoots Uncle Ben, or didn't shoot him, or whoever the fuck that guy actually was, because we know it wasn't him. And he throws him into the trash can, and they have one of those old school sound effects. It's like boink, like it's. Go back and watch it. It's hilarious.
Movie is super dated, but I mean, a lot of it still holds up. I mean, one of the most memorable
William Dafoe.
scenes,
Can we talk about how fucking awesome William Dafoe
his suit was trash, but because when I was a kid, it's so funny. When I was a kid, I didn't think the suit was trash. I didn't believe that at all. It's as I progressed in age, and the older I got, and every time I went back to it, I was like, "That's a little silly. Yeah, that's kind of silly. Wow, like
that's really dumb.
Like his mouth is just stuck open." But Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin, I mean.
Oh my
He's the
God.
best Green Goblin we will ever get. Period.
I love when he
don't
jumps
see
on the
anyone be
table and
better.
he's got like the Green Goblin vibe on, but it's just him. And
Yeah.
he's like, ah! He's so good playing the split like
The
Smeagol thing
voice,
too.
misery,
yeah.
misery. That's
Oh
what
my
you've
God,
chosen.
it's so
Like it's just.
I love
he's
Willem
so,
Dafoe. I love
yeah.
him so
Oh,
much.
he's great.
Oh, dude, he's
great.
awesome.
And that
He's
scene,
so
I think one of the most
fantastic.
memorable scenes in superhero film is when he throws when he goes into the burning building and he's
Yep.
pretending like with the blanket. And he goes, ah, turns
Help
around.
me.
He throws the razors, and Spider-Man does that fucking jump.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being a kid, and I was like, "This is the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life."
Comic book movies are never
This
going to
is
get better than
insane.
this.
Yeah, it was. But
And then
like you said,
flash forward like 15 years, and you have Thanos crush a moon and throw it down. And you're
Yeah,
like, that's the
right.
coolest thing I've ever seen.
But, but like you said,
no,
like it came out during a time when superhero movies weren't like that. But it's funny how that came out either the same year or the year before as the first X-Men. Like that, it came out during that time where we were starting to take these movies seriously.
Yep.
And
they
yeah,
could be good.
classic,
All right.
absolute classic.
All right, Toke, we talked a lot about it. Was it anywhere near for you that you're able to chime in, or is it a lot higher?
What number are we on? Was
We're
that
on
3?
That was 4.
4.
Okay, we'll skip ahead. All right, so what's your number 4 then? Since we
Mine
just
was
babbled.
Mine was Homecoming. I already talked about that one.
Okay.
That's right. I was.
Yep.
Oh yeah. You started us off on 4. Yeah,
Because you had 5, and I was like, well, I'm close enough. I'll say.
Okay. Well, then what's your
mine was
number
4.
3? What's your number 3 there? Because we just
My number 3 is Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
Okay.
So 2004. This movie.
Yeah, 2004, same year as Attack of the
so-
Clones.
So this
Weird fun
movie
fact.
is actually. I mean, if you look at all of the rating, anywhere you look, it's rated high. This is higher than the original. I mean, this movie is even rated as one of the greatest superhero movies ever fucking done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is.
And this movie, I mean, it's a great fucking sequel. I love this movie, and again, this was Tobey Maguire, man. I mean, this was the beginning of amazing comic book movies, and
I hate that you have it here because I don't want to talk about it yet because it's a lot
Me
higher for
neither.
me.
Yeah, it's higher.
no, I believe, like I said, but I have every.
Can we
again,
jump ahead? Can we save it then? Can we save it so we
Yeah.
can kind of? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So that's my number 3.
I like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Josh, what's
my
your
number 3
your number
is
3?
number 3 moved around for me. It moved around for me a little bit.
It's tough. These are the tough ones. These are the cream of the
where
cream.
we're in the nitty gritty. And of course, I will say, I just want to throw this out there. Across the Spider-Verse is in my top 3. If we revise the list, I just don't know where yet. But
Okay.
Wait, Into?
in across,
Oh,
but
the new
into,
the new one.
But Into the Spider-Verse is my number 3 Spider-Man movie of all
Okay.
time.
Okay.
Kind of
Same,
piggybacking on
same.
what Ginty was saying. You go into this movie like, what the fuck is this? I will never forget going to see this movie with my wife, and as soon as the credits rolled, I turned to her and exact words, and I feel like this might be where it started, guys. This might be the core. I looked at her and I said, "That movie had no right being this good." And I feel like no, all jokes aside, guys, I think that might have been the first time I ever fucking said that. It had no right. Why was it that good? Why was this one of the best Spider-Man films? Why was this one of the best superhero films that I've ever fucking seen?
It's so brilliantly done with like the story is amazing. The way that they brought in it's so weird. It's such a weird concept of like it feels like an animated movie. It is an animated movie. It's animated like an animated movie. There's things in that movie you can't do live action, but it feels so real. It's just something about it. The characters that were brought into it feel like they just feel like a really lived in. And I think, you know what, it helps is you close your eyes and you want to imagine that I can't remember the name of the Peter Parker that helps him.
Peter B. Parker.
You know his name. Peter B. Parker.
Peter B. Parker.
You want him to be Tobey Maguire. Like you want him to be that
Yes.
version of him.
Yeah, you do.
And so there's that
Yep.
like thing that comes back, like, oh, couldn't this just be Tobey Maguire? Like
But see,
his
the
Spider-Man.
way I view that, super interesting. The way I view that is Peter B. Parker. I almost saw as Andrew Garfield, and I felt like the
yeah.
Peter Parker that died, the perfect Peter Parker. I felt like was Tobey Maguire, and I remember reading that they did try to get Tobey Maguire, and they wanted to have them voice one of the characters, but it didn't fall through right or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's the way I viewed it. I was like, no, this is this one that kind of fell off and got into this depression. Like it makes sense to me that it would be Andrew
it would
Garfield.
be, so maybe that's
know
what
I mean?
that's what I was thinking too. Maybe I just screwed up the difference. But yeah, that's
But
it feels like there's the characters are there, and then when it gets starting getting wonky, and you introduce like the detective pig Spider-Man, and you're like, this is
Spider
so
Pig.
weird, and I love it.
And Nick Cage as Spider-Man Noir was my favorite scene. My favorite scene of that movie, and it's probably nobody else's favorite scene, but when he's going through this rant and he's like, sometimes I like to let a match burn down to my fingertips just so I can feel something, anything. Like, I was like, why is that so dope? He just, his lines in that movie, and then when he has the Rubik's Cube, he's like, I'm going to take this thing with me. I don't understand it, but I will.
But I will. Yeah. No,
this is brilliant.
It's really good. It's so good. And they make it, and it's very reminiscent of an actual comic book.
Absolutely.
Like the scenes, like the fights, like you got a punch, and it's like the star white cow thing going. It's amazing. I mean, it's just it was a very well thought out fucking film, and they did a great job with it.
They did a great job. Yeah. I liked all the little comic booky things, like when he throws the bagel back and it hits that guy and it just says bagel over his head. Keep that in mind, by the way. Keep that in your brain when you go to watch Across the Spider-Verse.
Hey, how about you stop spoiling things for us, Josh? Or we'll call you, or we'll call you from the Flash tomorrow.
Okay.
Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind.
All right, so me and Josh are right here. We're neck and neck.
Yeah, man.
Ginty's got a couple. The last four now have been on the same level here. So on three, I think we say our number two, because we're right there. And
yeah,
I mean,
man, we're
Ginty,
all
you got
up
some
there.
too.
You're not my. You guys have already said my number two, so
okay.
At least
Really?
Josh has.
Okay, so me and Mike, our 1 and 2 might be the same.
It might be the same.
It might
so
be
I
the
think
same,
we.
but
I think we.
You want to say it on 3?
I think they say it. Okay, all right. We don't get it when we clap, so we got to try and get it now. Okay.
Okay.
So,
1,
Ginty, you count us off.
Okay,
so we know.
you do it.
So this is number two,
Our
right?
number 2. Yep.
Number 2.
Yep. 3, 2, 1, go.
No
Spider
way
Way,
home.
No Way Home. Is that just Spider Way?
Spider Way.
Nope.
Yep. Spider-Man No Way Home. That's my
is
number 2.
Number 2. That means our number 1 is the same, which is super
Yep.
exciting.
So which means
Spider-Man
my
No Way Home.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your number 2, Ginty?
My number 2 is
Oh no, sorry.
Spider-Man.
Oh, okay. All right.
The original
you-
Spider-Man.
Oh, we
man,
talked about
and
it.
I
yeah.
totally feel that, man. Like I wanted the first Spider-Man to be higher. I tried so hard.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, let me put it here." But... And I was like, "No, let me put it here." But
And it's the only reason I did it at number 2 is because of just pure emotion. And this is the Spider-Man that got everybody into Spider-Man. This is the awakening.
If you close your eyes and you think of Spider-Man, you think of Tobey Maguire and Spider-Man.
Tobey Maguire
I mean,
every time.
I
Every
think of
time.
him on
Even
the
though
American
he's not
flag
my
at the
favorite, but
on the American
On the-
flag at the
on the
very
flagpole?
end, on the flagpole at the very end, and he jumps in. Like that's
that
the
whole
image that
end
I have.
sequence, to this day
and again,
holds
this
up.
is
That end sequence to this day.
But you got to remember, this movie came out in 2002, so that scene has huge importance because of 2001.
I was
Yeah.
a wee child.
Mhm.
I was in the second grade.
9/11. 9/11, dude.
9/11. Yeah,
I
they
was
took out that because remember that trailer where they had the twin towers in the trailer, and
Yeah,
then they totally
that's right.
scrapped that because of
they
9/11.
removed the twin towers because of 9/11.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming
I
that's
remember
and
that
I guarantee
trailer,
that's
too.
exactly why they had that end scene of him on the flagpole.
Yep.
This
And that's why they
movie
have that
is
scene
just-
at the end where it's like, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. Like, and it's like New York coming together. That's because
Yeah.
of 9/11. I've
Mhm.
read about that. Like, that was
Yes.
that, like, New York united scene. And it's funny because as corny as that scene is, for some reason, it works. You know?
it hits home.
It
It
does.
hits right here in
to
the
this
heart.
day, it
Okay.
hits home.
So because I was following along, because I was writing these down, we know the list here. I know our personified fandoms list. So let's just spin this real quick, and then we can talk about our top two, and I'll reveal the top two movies
Okay.
according to personified fandom. So at number 9, coming in with 6 points, we have The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I knew
That
it.
is
Okay.
Fair enough.
That's
fair enough.
That's the number 9. Number 8 is Spider-Man 3, which is weird that it's coming out this way because it's exactly my list so far.
Mine, that's just flip flop for me.
Yep.
A little annoyed, but let's go.
What are we at? That's
7.
8. Number 7 is Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yeah.
That's my number 7.
Okay.
I think that's
I'll take
yep,
that.
I think that's number 6 is where are we at? 13, 12. 12, Spider-Man Homecoming. I'm surprised. I would have thought that I like them almost less, but
It's
I would
probably
have
because
thought
I had it so low. I feel like brought it down in the personified
Yeah.
fandom count.
yes.
Yeah.
That's definitely what it is because it had for
I'm
points.
sorry.
it
Way to go,
had-
Josh.
Yeah, I'm
what the
sorry,
fuck?
guys.
It had 5, 6, and 1 point because it's a point for the beginning of the list anyway.
Yeah,
All right,
that was
so-
my number 4.
Yeah.
So
Sorry,
13
guys.
here is so at number 5. What do we have? We had number 5. Yeah, number 5 is
Amazing
The
Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man.
Yep.
Okay.
Number 4 is where are we at here? Into the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
Yep.
Number 3 is
That's right,
Spider-Man.
Reese. Number 3 is Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man.
Okay.
I got number 2 there, but that works.
Yep.
Flip-flop.
Number 2, and this is simply because Ginty, you have it at number 1, and me and Josh have it at number 2. So it's tied. So these last two movies are tied, but we're giving the number 2 to No Way Home because 2 of us have it there. This is what we did last time.
Okay.
Yep.
So we'll go over our number 2 movie. Our number 2 movie of all time is No Way Home.
No Way Home.
I think it's very appropriate. It's easily, I mean, it. How can it not be? It combines all three basically.
How
I
can it not
first-
be is the perfect explanation, Mike. I really.
It's got all of them
Yeah,
in
you
there.
did it. How can it not be?
It was such a weird thing because when I first saw this, I was thinking like, okay, they're going to be cameoed. Like they're going to be a quick cameo. They'll pop in, do something, and Garfield's character was looking like, oh, that's going to be a legitimate cameo. He's about to leave, and then he's like, okay, I can stick around for a while, and then
Yeah.
just, AKA, I'll just be here for the last 45 minutes of the movie. Like the way they pulled that off is just, I don't know, it's just insane.
I can't believe they pulled it off.
Yeah.
They
I
shouldn't have
was-
been able to
it-
pull it off.
So it was so good. This was
Honestly.
actually originally on my list. This was my number 2.
Oh, so there
I
you go.
I whited out my number 1 and 2 and flip flopped them.
Yeah, Josh, what do you got to say about this one?
I remember there was so many leaks. There was a lot of leaks coming out a year before this movie, and I didn't believe 90% of them. I believed that Electro was coming back. I believed that they were going to pull different villains from other movies. But when they said, I saw a leak that said all 3 Spider-Men team up to fight a bunch of the villains from other movies, I said, they're not going to do it because they don't have the balls. They're pussies.
Yeah.
You know, I don't believe they have the balls to do this. And then when it started getting more confirmed, like, yes, Toby and Andrew are in this, I'm like, okay. You know, I went and saw this movie opening night. I'm like, again, like you said, Mike, I thought it was going to be a short cameo. And I will say, and I think because Spider-Man is my favorite superhero of all time, there is not a movie moment in my life that compares to the moment when Andrew Garfield and Tobey
I was gonna bring
Maguire
that up.
came through that portal. The only thing that comes close to it is the end of Endgame when everyone comes through the portal, and I was just and Cap gets Mjolnir, and it was like and in that moment I was like, nothing will ever compare to this. And then I saw No Way Home, and I will call me a pussy. My eyes watered. Not when Andrew came in, I cheered. When Tobey Maguire came through that portal, and I think it hit more because he wasn't in costume, which is a big joke that people like to laugh at. He came in looking like what they say, a Christian, whatever they called him in the movie.
Yeah.
But when he comes through that point, I shit you not, my eyes watered. And I was like, this feeling I will probably never feel again in cinematic history. It won't happen
It's going to happen again. Something's going to happen. It happened again already.
Maybe, but we got Flash coming out, which you guys are going to see Flash, and by the time this comes out, we'll all have seen Flash, and hopefully all have done a movie of the week on the Flash. Michael Keaton coming back as Batman, that's great. But for me, Tobey Maguire coming back as Spider-Man is... I don't see anything else hitting that, because that is what that movie did for me as a kid. It lives with me. So seeing him come through that portal, and he's so Tobey Maguire, Peter Parker. I don't know how he just fell back into the role the way that he did.
Yeah.
But he comes through that portal, and I'm like, I want to sob. I want to start crying.
See, I had a moment too in that movie, and I'm sure everybody did, who like, and it's weird because I wasn't as invested as the list shows in the Amazing Spider-Man, and then over the years you kind of feel bad that like you learn stories about how, you know, Garfield kind of got railroaded out of it, you know, like he gets called the worst one, but he really wasn't. He did an amazing job when he saves Mary Jane, and like just looks at her and she's like, "It's okay, I'm fine," and he just like has that moment. I started tearing up. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like
it shows the caliber of actor that Andrew Garfield is. He didn't say a fucking word.
Yeah.
Word. He just looked at her.
He just looks at her and like shakes his head, and
that look,
you get it.
Said a million words. Said a million words.
So,
and you're just like you're shook by that moment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I got goosebumps just talking.
Me,
me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Just because like it's funny. Well, so I'll add real quick. I wanted to watch this with my fiance, but she hasn't seen any of the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and I was like, you kind of got to watch that just to get the context. Like, if you just saw that scene, it wouldn't mean a thing to you. You'd be like, oh, cool, you caught her.
I would go out on a limb and say that you need to see Amazing Spider-Man more than you need to see Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies to feel the effect of No Way Home. Because the most powerful scenes of No Way Home come from the Amazing Spider-Man movies, which is ironic, isn't it? Isn't it?
Oh, it's wild. Yeah, it's so weird that most of the villains come from there. Most of the crux moments of this whole entire thing come from there.
It gave him his happy ending. It really did.
And he was the best. He was the best actor in that movie, I think.
Oh my god,
he was the best part of that movie.
And the explanation of like what happened after Gwen, because we all wanted to see that. We got gypped of some amazing, no pun intended again, Spider-Man content. Is what happens after that kind of loss where you failed. It's not like the Uncle Ben loss. It's not. It doesn't even come close, honestly, in my opinion. No. You literally failed after making this promise to Captain Stacy to keep her out of it. She died because of you. How do you deal with that? He says, I got angry. I got bitter. You know, he got vengeful. It's like he explained this whole entire movie that I want to see that I didn't get to see. It's just,
obviously between the portal scene, the saving Gwen scene, or saving MJ,
Yeah.
and even the little talks, like they even mention amazing. No, 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 you're amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
I
whole
mean, though,
conversation
like
was great.
the whole conversation, like even going back to Toby, like, oh, speaking of, yeah, no, I did have a web block, exponential crisis, like
His
love
back.
thing happening.
Yeah,
He
his back.
said,
Oh, the back,
just
yes, the
my
back.
back. And I'm
What?
like,
Yeah.
you guys are
Also,
just
I love when
rubbing
they're
my
talking about like
balls
the
right now.
making. How did you make that
Anywhere
web? And he's
else?
like, I don't know, it just kind of shoots out of me, and they're like, oh,
Yeah, like,
that's so
does
good.
it come
And
out
they
of
recreated
anywhere else?
They
He's like,
they
no, just the wrist.
they recreated the pointing meme. Like they did
Yep.
so many good things in this. In
Yeah.
So
this,
many
in
good
this
things. And
movie.
then I
but-
think also with the return of both I think the most pivotal villain returns were Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe. Those were the two. It was great to see Jamie Foxx again. It was great to see the Lizard again. It was great to see Sandman again. But the ones that hit right, it gets you right here, it gets you right
Yeah.
here, was Green Goblin and Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. You're talking about, spoiler alert, I mean, I guess you guys know what our number one is. You're talking about
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't
the
want. You want
villain
to
from
transition to that
number
one? Is there anything
movie.
else you got to say? Anything you guys got to say about No Way Home? Because I mean, we've been recording for probably. An hour and a half
Almost
now.
an hour and a half, yeah.
But the portal scene and the emotional saving MJ scene, those are because the sheer emotion of it is the reason why that was my number one, personal number one.
Yeah.
That's why
I'm
I
surprised
changed
that they killed off. They killed off. What's her name too in that one?
Aunt May.
Aunt May.
Aunt May.
But guys, I am so happy they did, because I had this moment in the theater, right? When she gets hit with that glider and she gets up, he's like, "Are you all right?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm all right." I'm like, "No, you're not.
Yeah.
You are
no,
a
you're
human
dead.
being. You
Yeah.
should be dead." So when she died, I was like, okay, I feel better, which is terrible. But like,
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, yeah.
It's
They
fucked up
didn't-
to say
they didn't
it didn't
cop out.
bother me that much.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me that Aunt May died. It bothered me how much it bothered Peter. If that makes sense. His reaction to it was what fucked with me. But the death of Aunt May, I was like, I never fucked with that Aunt May that much. So it was
No.
like she died. I'm like,
No.
whatever. But then I see Peter crying, and I was like, oh, Peter.
but he didn't have the Uncle Ben. It was just Aunt May.
It
Always,
was.
only
That
Aunt
was
May.
I
his Aunt
always
May.
thought, but I always
That
thought
was-
Tony
that was
Stark
the
was
Uncle
his
Ben.
Uncle Ben. I always thought that was the Uncle Ben loss for him. That's what I got from Far From Home. When Tony Stark dies, I'm like, oh, okay. You get, if you're nothing without
They
the suit, you
supplemented
shouldn't
it,
have
yeah.
it. That's the great power, great
With great power,
responsibility,
great responsibility,
and
yeah,
he
yeah.
dies, and that's what I thought. So
Yeah.
when she mutters the words correctly from the comics, with great power then comes great responsibility, which is how it's said in the comics, which I really liked. It was like, oh, sure, we can do it. It's
Yeah,
fine.
that's
but I
the
feel
only
like
part
we
of it
already
that-
did this.
Yeah, that was the only part of it that
Yeah.
kind of made me feel like, man, what they kind of missed a step on that one. But
Yeah.
yeah. So to wrap this up now, our
Yep.
number one, which again, it's your number 3, Ginty. Our number 1, Spider-Man 2.
Yep.
This
Yeah.
is, I mean, it's funny how what years did this one come out in comparison to X-Men 2? Because
This
spoiler
one came out
alert, if you guys
2004.
remember,
2004.
I think X-Men 2 is
I wish I could turn the camera. I have the original movie theater poster in a frame of Spider-Man
word.
2. It says Choice, and he's standing on the edge
Yeah.
of the building with the mat. I have it over there on my wall.
So we should have known all
but
along that
even-
that was your number
yeah.
1.
Yeah,
But-
yeah. I
but
wish I
e-
could
but e-
turn the
yeah.
camera and show you guys, but I have the
But-
original movie theater
yeah.
poster of that.
But even like I said, when I said it at my number 3, it said this should be higher.
Yeah, it's
Only
they all
for
got to be
pure
some.
Yeah, but only for pure emotional reason, I had it at 3. But in a movie standpoint, this is one of the best superhero movies, hands down.
Yeah,
It-
agree.
they nailed They nailed everything in this
Nailed
movie.
it.
The villains, the pacing of it is just awesome. I've seen this one, Jesus, probably 20 times. Like I love this movie. Yeah, it's hard to like. say what else. I mean, I'm trying to like look up just to get a better idea so I get more talking points.
It hits all the points. I feel like
Yeah.
set the tone for what an incredible superhero movie can be. At that time, I believe it was the greatest superhero movie of all time. Now I believe it's in the top 5.
Yeah.
I think it's up there with Dark Knight. I think is one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. I believe Infinity War is one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. Civil War, and guys, again, I got to think about it, but I want to put Across the Spider-Verse up there, and I can't wait to see the next one. But it's up there. It's up there for sure. And there's not much wrong I find with this movie. There's really not.
No.
The only things wrong with it, I feel like, are because of its time, and I won't hold it against it. Just because of the time, the period in time that it came out. There's certain things that were like, if you did it today, you wouldn't have done that. But other than that,
no.
there's not
I mean,
much wrong
this
with
movie,
stuff.
from beginning to end, the pacing of the movie, the way it's shot, the cameos, the cuts, it's all perfectly timed. There's really no flaw in this movie. And I really think it's like a major viewing point or reference for any other movie to make for superhero movies wise, that this is the movie they use as a reference to make their movie.
Yeah.
It's just, it's that fucking good.
Yeah. It's got to be one of the best sequel movies of all time, really.
Oh God, yes.
It's one of those sequels. There's not many, and I feel like this is another list we should do. Sequels that ended up being better than the original, because there's not a lot. There's not, in my opinion, and I feel like Spider-Man 2 is one of them. Spider-Man 2 is better than the first one.
You got like Terminator 2, Spider-Man 2.
Terminator 2. Yeah, Terminator 2.
Oh my
Spider-Man
God.
X-Men 2. Spoiler, I
2.
think that we won't talk. We have an X-Men list coming out.
Yeah, we do.
So we won't spoil too much.
We do.
Even though I think we all know what's going to be the best one. But
Do we?
yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, there was definitely some surprises here. I would have thought the newer Spider-Mans would have been up there higher on your list, Josh.
Yeah. It's just when you take into account the reason why I put them low, I feel like it makes sense, and I feel like I can
definitely
justify it. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
It's just
I
not
definitely
the
feel that.
Spider-Man. Again, when you introduce that Spider-Man in Civil War, I'm like, here we go. This is finally the perfect Spider-Man. But then we jump to No Way Home, and he's getting dragged through the neighborhood by a van, and I'm like, oh, you got fucking Spider-Boy over here dicking around. Like, it was a turnoff, you know? It had potential. But again, the end of Far From Home, I think we finally hit the Spider-Man I wanted to see, and then No Way Home. That's why it's so high. That is the Spider-Man I want to see. And then the end of No Way Home, he doesn't have a Stark suit on, guys. He has a traditional Spider-Man suit. I can't wait for Spider-Man 4 because I think Tom Holland is doing a phenomenal job. My ranking and putting Homecoming so low has nothing to do with Tom Holland. It has to do with the production and the creative decisions, but Tom Holland is fucking killing it. He is killing it.
Yep.
He's doing a great job.
And he can be Spider-Man for the next 20 fucking years.
20, 30 years. He can be Spider-Man for the rest of my life until you want to give us Miles Morales.
Although he's already brought up not doing it twice, so I don't know. Speaking of killing it, we're killing this video. It's pushing the limits of what we can, what your computer can handle for recording. So yeah,
absolutely. So that is our ranking. One more time, Mike. You want to run through our Personified Fandom?
At number 9, we have The Amazing Spider-Man. Number 8, Spider-Man 3. Number 7 is Spider-Man Far From Home, followed quickly by its predecessor in Homecoming. Number 5 is The Amazing Spider-Man. Number 4 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Number 3 is Spider-Man. Number 2 is No Way Home. And the number 1 ranked movie for number 1 Spider-Man movie for Personified Fandom is Spider-Man 2.
Yep.
Which I feel like we didn't talk about as much as we probably would have an hour and a half ago. I think we're just Spider-Man out.
Yeah, we knew, guys, this video was going to get deep.
Yeah. We knew
But,
it was gonna
yeah.
be long.
yeah,
I
that's
can't say
our,
Spider-Man too many more times. I have to stop saying it now.
Yeah, the words are
Spider-Man.
like hurting my jaw.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'd like to see a counter if we had some mega fans. That'd be great. To just bing, 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 bing.
Yeah, if only we had mega fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you have it. That's our ranking of the Spider-Man films. Be sure to drop down in the comment section. Give us your top 3, top 5 Spider-Man films of all time. Yeah, and go see Across the Spider-Verse. That goes for the
I
two
know,
people on
Josh.
this
Stop
fucking
telling me.
podcast too. Damn it.
We will. We will.
But yeah, that's all we got today on episode whatever this may be of Personified Fandom. And until next time, everybody.
See you guys.
Later.
Well, hello there. It looks like you made it to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. We really do appreciate you. Hit that subscribe button if you liked what we saw. Leave some comments for any topics that you'd like us to discuss. We're always looking for feedback, and we'd like to hear what you think. If you want to check out some more clips of ours, here's a couple right here. Enjoy, and again, thanks for watching.